in Chicago at Starrcast 3, and this is the one everybody's been waiting for. Mark, what is going to happen when this man gets a live fight when CM Punk is at Starrcast 3?
I've interviewed CM Punk. He's a challenging interview, and I mean that in a very good way. CM Punk's a cagey guy. If we're ever going to learn about his future plans, it's going to be right here, right now at Starrcast.
Will he ever return to the ring? Will he be an all-out tonight? We're going to find out everything right now at Starrcast 3 on Fight TV and on pay-per-view here in Chicago. Would you please welcome our host for this exclusive blockbuster interview from PWIinsider.com. Here's Mike Johnson.
What's up, Chicago? How you guys doing? So, CM Punk canceled. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I've been writing about pro wrestling for over 20 years now. I've been doing it for about 15 and a half years full time. There are tons and tons of eclectic, amazing, driven, passionate personalities. But CM Punk stands out amongst all of them. You want to talk about a driven individual. He started out right here in Chicago with the LWF and supermarket shopping cart death matches and things like that. Rose through the blood and gut trenches of IWA Mid-South, became one of the definitive Ring of Honor talents, and went all the way to the top of WWE as the longest reigning WWE champion since the early days of Hulk Hogan. Career, and several years ago it ended like that. But he's moved on, he's done a lot of other things, we're going to talk about that as well. You can call him the Second City Superstar, you can call him the Second City Saint, you can call him the Straight Edge Superstar. He is CM Punk, and he is the best in the world.
No, I didn't. I wanted to send out, I told Conrad this when I saw him today, I wanted to send out a tweet that said I was too sunburned to attend Starrcast, but I think with everybody constantly pulling out, dropping off, like whatever, I thought maybe it'd give him a heart attack, so I decided against it.
Yeah, I think Conrad might have had a coronary if that went out.
Yeah, my wife shaved my head last night, so if you guys notice any like weird patchiness, you know, you can blame her.
So this is the first time in a lot of years you've been in front of a pro wrestling audience. You've done C2E2 and you've done other pop culture conventions. What does it feel like to be back inside the pro wrestling environment for a little bit? Is it fun? Is it weird?
So I think every environment is a pro wrestling environment, and I don't necessarily know that's just because of me and my past and where I come from and everything, but like I'm immediately reminded of a couple years ago at the New York Comic Con when I got to do a panel with Jim. I hosted the panel for Jim Starlin.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, and so Jim Starlin obviously he created like every single Marvel character that you all love watching movies about. Jim has pretty much have his fingerprints all over it. So like there was a very pro wrestling crowd. You know what I mean? Like I was getting pro wrestling questions, and I was like, let's talk about Jim, because I was there to talk about Jim. And same thing, hosted a panel for Don Coscarelli last year at the New York Comic Con. And it was a very pro wrestling crowd. So I just feel like no matter where I go, it's always a pro wrestling crowd. And I just think that's because pro wrestling is American pop culture. I think at some point in your life, everybody has liked pro wrestling.
All right, so let's do some pro wrestling questions. There's a million stories about you. Allegedly, Fox Sports Net wants you for their WWE show. Conrad has said straight up, you were booked here for Starrcast. You are not going to All Elite Wrestling tonight. You're not going to be at All Out, but yet I walked the hallway today. That's all I got to ask. Is Punk going to be there tonight? Ask Punk if he's going to be there tonight. There's always rumors about a WWE return. No matter what you do and where you go, people are always going to associate you with that run in WWE. So, where are you going? What are you doing? And like, what's life like now for CM Punk? Where even after all these years, it's when are you coming back? Is it weird?
No, I don't think it's weird. I think it's flattering. You know, it's a testament to, I guess, what I've done and the mark I've left on a business that obviously everybody in this room, I think, loves. I think that's pretty cool, you know, and that's... When are you coming back is always a lot better question than when are you going the fuck away. And trust me, people ask me that all the time too. So you know, it's a nice healthy balance of both.
So I mentioned a couple of these rumors and speculations that are floating around about you. Before we go any further, we dive into the past and some of the stuff you're doing today. You want to address any of this stuff? AEW, Fox, any of this?
I mean, none of it's. I'm not going to be anywhere. Ape was in Los Angeles for like a week and a half. So I haven't seen her in a minute, so I'm going to be hanging out with her tonight. I hate to burst anybody's bubble, I'm sorry.
Priorities.
It's like this polite smattering of fun.
And you know there's somebody out there going, somebody's out there going, he's working us, he's totally working us.
That's the nature of the beast, right? Like, that's the thing. And that's kind of that's the good thing and it's the bad thing about pro wrestling, you know? Because a lot of people will talk shit and and then you see them in person and you're like, hey, I'm doing
They give you a hug.
I was working you, brother. And you're like, fuck you. I don't got time for that shit.
So, when you left WWE in January 2014, you were in a certain place, obviously unhappy, unhealthy. We're sitting here in August of 2019. What's life like for you now as you're trying to do these other endeavors like acting and moving on and being happy in life? Like, what's life like for you now compared to the grind of pro wrestling, and how much do you think you've grown or changed in that time?
I think the big difference is I'm in my own bed every night. And even if that's not necessarily my own bed in my own house in my city, I'm centrally somewhere. You know, like shooting a movie, I go back to the same spot every single time, and I can sleep and I can rest. And there's days off, and there's different things that help you along. Life for me now is I'm pretty fortunate, you know, and that's obviously, I think, you know, thank you to everybody here who's ever, you know, bought a shirt, come to see a show, bought a comic book. You know, I've been, I don't like to say blessed, it feels really religious. Fortunate, I've been fortunate, and everybody has supported me. So it's pretty cool, I get to do what I want, you know, and what I want to do is hang out with my wife, hang out with my dog. And, you know, again, I'm fortunate enough to have people reach out and say, hey, you want to do this movie? Do you want to write this comic book? I think that's, for a poor kid from Chicago, I think that's pretty fucking cool.
Well, let's talk about the movies. You got a couple coming out. Girl on the Third Floor, which is the first film that you are the star of. It's going to start to roll out in October. And then you did the Sasko Sisters Rabbit, the remake of the David Cronenberg film. Talk a little bit about what it's like playing someone other than CM Punk, which I have to assume is almost like having your own. So Punk's probably like your shadow in a lot of ways. A lot of you as CM Punk. What's it like stepping out of that and playing a different role?
It's fun. You know, it's make-believe, right? So I get to tell stories in a different way. And I used to tell stories in a wrestling ring, and now I get to tell somebody else's story. And I think the interesting thing about, you know, movies or television is a lot of the time it's somebody thinks of you and goes, oh, you would be perfect for this. So far, the two roles that I've had in movies, the guys are pretty much jerks, so that tells you a lot of what my friends think of me. But it's a lot of fun, you know. I think the Saskers are tremendously awesome. I've been fans of them for I don't know how many years, and it's just because I randomly stumbled upon their first film, Dead Hooker in a Trunk.
Classic, you'll see it soon on the Disney Channel.
If you've never seen or heard of Dead Hooker in a Trunk, I highly recommend it. And it's just very punk rock, guerrilla. You could tell shoestring budget, and these two female directors made this movie, and I was just like, this is great. And I just remember tweeting about it, and like, it's kind of the fun thing about Twitter, right? You get to connect with people across the world that you normally wouldn't connect with, and it's just like, oh, let me say I love this movie, and then they were freaking out about it, ever since then, they've been saying, "Oh, we want to work with you," and it finally, the planets aligned, and I got to do it. I'm super proud of the role I played in Rabbit. I'm super over the moon proud of Girl on the Third Floor, and it's because of the people that I was surrounded with and the people I got to work with, the directors, the producers, the writers, the other actors. It was a tremendous experience, and it was super, super hard, and it was super difficult, and I think anything that's worth doing is going to be hard, and it was just so much fun.
I was just going to ask you, especially with Girl on the Third Floor, you are the star of the film. So what is that pressure like where the entire set and the entire production revolves around you compared to working a WrestleMania main event against Undertaker or a big pay-per-view where the entire show is built around you and the success or failure of that match leads to how people look at the show?
So obviously I'm not a fan of like anything I do. And I don't know if I hate my own voice. You see in my own face, I'm like, oh, my nose is crooked. This is a disaster. It's not true. So the first time I saw Girl on the Third Floor was when it premiered at South by Southwest, which is kind of a big deal. Everyone was telling me, but it's it's not really my world. So I'm just kind of like, well, whatever. I'm along for the ride, And I remember sitting down to watch it and thinking to myself, 85% of this movie is like my face. This is a fucking nightmare. And I think I sat there just like tense the whole time. And everyone asked me afterwards, they said, well, how do you feel? What'd you think? And I said, I didn't hate it. And then everyone was like, whoa! That's a super huge compliment coming from me regarding anything that I do. That and then when I say 85% of the movie is my face, 85% of the movie is my face. Getting shit thrown at it, it is brutal. But I'm really happy with it, and I think one of the more fascinating things about it is everybody who's seen it across the board. I saw one negative review, and it was hilariously written, and it was just a comment about me where the person said, "So-called Phil Brooks looks like Henry Rollins." That was the negative part, and I was just like, that's pretty fucking cool.
I was just going to say, with your love of music, which is pretty legendary, I don't think you're going to see that as a negative.
A lot of parallels people are throwing out. They see a lot of Bruce Campbell in the role, and that's because I had to be clean shaven, which was the worst part of the movie for me, was shaving every morning. They say Bruce Campbell, they say Jack Torrance, Shining. So there's been a lot of cool, iconic horror movie characters that I have been compared to, and it's all flattering. The movie was fun, and my October is going to be super, super busy promoting it. There's going to be a big premiere in LA, New York, and there'll be one here in Chicago. I wish I had the info for you. I think it's going to be like middle of October.
Check his Twitter.
Yeah, it'll be on there.
Do we know a release date for Rabbit yet? Like, I looked this morning and I saw
I do,
Russia.
but I can't tell you.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so Rabbit just premiered at the Fright Fest festival in London. Big 20th anniversary of a huge horror convention out there. And again, rave reviews. I know when it's going to come out, and it's going to be wide theatrical release, so everybody's going to be able to go see it, but I just can't tell you the date yet. They have a gag order, and they told me, and I'd be a real big dick if I spoiled it.
All right, so one more acting question. In wrestling, a lot of people stay within the confines of their public persona most of the day, and they get in the zone. Is it that way for you on set? Or are you able to drop the character? Like, are you
am I a method actor?
Yes.
Like, no. No, I think, I don't know. I think for some people they have to be method actors. I think for me, I was reading the script, and it was just, every day, hey, what do you want to do today? What do you think of this? I'd be able to bounce stuff, and I'm fortunate enough to work with such a brilliant guy. The director and the writer's name is Travis Stevens, and he's amazing. I actually accepted the role like sight unseen, but I didn't even read the script. I just saw his name, and he produced one of my favorite documentaries called Uderowski's Dune. Again,
it's a great film.
I don't know if anybody's seen Uderowski's Dune. It's kind of a deep cut, but if you haven't, go fucking watch it. It was a revelation to me. I was sitting in the theater, I was sitting in the Music Box Theater watching Uderowski's Dune, and this is shortly after I had left WWE, and I remember just looking at the screen and going, I am Uderowski's Dune. And if you've seen it, you'll understand that comment, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it if you want to understand that comment.
So let's talk some wrestling. It's been a couple of years since you've been in a wrestling ring. I'm sure you don't miss the politics or fighting or trying to get your way or making others understand your vision. But do you miss the performance of it? Do you miss getting in the ring? Do you miss calling spots? Do you miss performing and having people react the way that they did when you walked out on stage today? That aspect of it, is there any part of you that still misses it, or have you moved on?
I don't miss it. Like, it's nothing I pine for every day. But again, I think that's because I was fortunate enough to do it all. So there's nothing that I go, I wish I would have done this differently. Right? And I'm also not that guy either. Like, I don't wake up and go, I wish I could have done this differently or done this more or less. The hard answer is no, and I think that's the shortest answer I can give. But it's just, I think I did all right. I think I had a pretty good career. There's stuff you can go back and watch. I'd like to say it holds up, but I'm kind of out of the loop on the landscape. Obviously, I know things because of Twitter and the pop culture zeitgeist. It's always out there, but I don't miss it because I think I did enough with it, and I had such a good career, in my opinion.
I would say so. Is there anyone, when you're going through Twitter or you hear through people that you're still friends with around wrestling, that you go, man, if I got back into it, I know I'd have fun doing something with them, like a Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega? Do you ever come across anything and go, wow, that's pretty cool, and maybe it gets your juices flowing for a second? Is there anyone like that you think about and go, well, maybe if the constellations were right, maybe that would happen?
Okay, I'll give you guys a deep dive here. Was it I don't know when did I was gonna leave, and I wound up re-signing, and before that, I remember 2010 maybe, I remember being in, I think, San Diego, and Austin was in San Diego, and he was just strictly there, and I can't remember why he was there, and I just remember looking at him and being like, now what, fuck it. And I walked up to him and I go, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you're here. I go, I gotta work a dark match after this. I go, do you mind coming out and just giving me a stunner? And, how else are we gonna send these people home? You know what I mean? And he was like, goddamn, yeah. All right, kid. And here's a guy, and he literally was like, I've been back here I don't know how many times, and nobody ever asked me that before. And I was just like, well, why the fuck hasn't anybody asked this guy? Because I was like, I'm out the door. I might as well, be able to say I took a stunner. And I remember, I grabbed all the heels that were involved. It was like me, R-Truth, everybody. And I was like, oh, here's the deal, guys. He's gonna come out and he's gonna stun everybody. And everybody was just like, what? I think maybe Miz was involved, and it just turned into a fun, goofy thing where we got to do it, and I think that's kind of where Steve kind of took a liking to me. You know what I mean? Because again, if you never ask, the answer is always no, and dude just kind of would always be backstage sitting around. I guess I don't know if he was waiting for somebody to ask, and so that's when I started prodding him and being like, let's work this match, motherfucker, let's go. You know what I mean? And I think there was a sliver in time where it was going to happen, and then the next minute it didn't. But so I kind of look at myself, not that I'm of Steve Austin's caliber, but I kind of look at myself like that now, and I wonder, because I'll see people like Marty Marty Scurll, I know has.
Marty Scurll, yeah.
Did I pronounce his name right? I always want to call him Skrull because I'm the Marvel Comics guy, and I know it's probably annoying to him. But he's a super nice guy. I did the C2E2 signing, and me and him were like right next to each other. He's great, and I saw that he said he would like to wrestle me, and I was just always kind of like, oh, that's.
So now you're Austin.
What?
Now you're the Steve Austin.
I mean, maybe kind of, you know, but it's interesting how that works because, like, again, I can tell you, I sit here like, I know who Will Ospreay is. Just because I don't watch wrestling, I've never seen him wrestle. I've seen, you know, the clips on Twitter of him doing shit, and I just go, Jesus Christ, what? You know, like, wow, I can't, I'd be able to do something with that, I can't do that. You know, but I do think it, you know, it goes to, it speaks to taking the initiative and like, you know, so like a guy like him, you know, and it's only because he put the foot forward. I look at guys like Kenny Omega, and I know he's like the big match, you know, guy now, and I kind of look at him and I'm just like, I don't even know if I'd be able to keep up with these people now. But then again, I overtrain and I try to bike 35 miles a day, and like I overdo it all the time. I don't know, but there's no one person that like jumps out at me and I go, you know, oh, that guy.
You mentioned overachieving, and there was a time period where you were in WWE, and you came in, and the term independent wrestler was like a black eye on you, as if it was you had done something wrong. And you rose up in the ranks over time, and there were a lot of highs and lows, but eventually you end up in a top position. You open up the doors for guys like Bryan Danielson to come in, and they succeed. And now you look at, we've come from a period where you were talking on TV about how you wanted to affect change after you won the title, and you look at things at how every independent wrestler is now being chased down for a big money contract, and guys are told, go out and make a name on the independents, and then we'll come hire you for NXT. And you look at the whole landscape of WWE changing, where guys can go on vacation, which is crazy. Do you realize a lot?
Wait, what?
Yeah! Guys can take time off. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch just took 2 weeks off, and they're the top 2 stars on Raw. Yeah. They went and got engaged. I'm not even kidding. I feel like you and Joe had like one of the most celebrated wrestling bromances in that time period. You guys were like peanut butter and jelly. You know, it just seemed like it was like one of those matches and one of those clicking of personalities that worked. I don't know how close you are to him anymore. I don't know if you still follow what he's doing, but what are your memories of working with Joe? Because I don't think you guys would have had success, but I don't think you would have had success the same way that you did if it hadn't been for that rivalry and that friendship.
I think the rivalry had success just because of ideas. You know, I looked around. I would always look around at the locker room and like the landscape, and I would always be like, okay, what's missing? What's nobody doing? What's everybody doing? I'm going to try to do the opposite of that. And I don't take credit for anything. I think those who were there know like who did what, who's responsible for whatever it is. I think you can see my fingerprints all over stuff. There was a rash of 60-minute draws after all that. And, like, I apologize for that. But I loved working with Joe just because it was one of those things that it was easy. It wasn't always necessarily not difficult, if that makes sense, but working with Joe was easy. But the dude would beat the shit out of you, you know? So not that was, you know, a bad thing. It was just kind of like the style we worked. And he was a bigger dude that I felt like I'm not the smallest guy, but I'm not the biggest either, but I could get away with doing more with him because he was a bigger guy and he was a better base. And I think that's another thing that made the matches so much different, is because it was believable that I could stand up to Joe because he's not, you know, 390 pounds, but there wasn't such a drastic, like, Rey Mysterio-esque size difference. Working with Joe's a peach, you know. Hopefully whatever he's doing now is fun and good, and I hope he's happy.
There came a time period where the WWE contract offer came and you left Ring of Honor. At that point, you were one of the top tier talents in Ring of Honor. At one point, you were running their wrestling academy. You were the world champion, all these other things. The offer comes, and obviously there's more money, more fame, more adulation, bigger schedule. Was it hard to divorce yourself from Ring of Honor after all those years of working so hard to make that a destination for wrestlers and for wrestling fans? Before there was an AEW, before there were these other groups, and every promotion had, every city had 5 independent shows, there was Ring of Honor, and that kind of became all rivers flowed to Ring of Honor, and then people went from there to other places. Was it hard to let Ring of Honor go and move on? Because that last night in Chicago.
I mean, yeah, watch that. I cried like a baby.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it hit me until that exact moment how much it was going to suck, because I was going into the unknown. I really, really was. And you know, there wasn't a whole lot of hope. There was, oh, you're going to get used the wrong way, and this, that, but I was at a point where I had to see what I could do, because that's just me, and that's who I am. You know, it's like you climb the mountain and you realize, oh shit, there's another mountain. And then you climb that mountain and you're like, man, this is just a plateau. There's more to go. So I was always trying to go there. And WWE in my career, I don't think was ever the final. You know, I don't think I ever aspired to be a WWE guy. I think I wanted to wrestle in Japan, because I think all my heroes wrestled in Japan. I thought All Japan Wrestling was, you know, 93 was like far and away best wrestling of all time. And I wanted to go there. I got to go to Japan. I was like, fuck yeah, I made it. And then Hashimoto tells me, maybe too big lightweight, not big enough heavyweight. And like, next thing I know, I've canceled all my bookings because they were supposed to bring me on the tour. And then they tell me I'm not on the tour. And I was just like, ugh. So I call up Gabe and I go, hey, can I have that booking back? And Gabe was like, oh yeah, you know, because Gabe was always inundated with that. Like Carino would always be taking guys, and guys would be canceling off shows, Homicide, Low Key, all that. So Gabe was thrilled that I was, you know, back on the show. And then I told him, I was like, I don't think the Japan thing is going to work out, and I'm sick of being jerked around about you're on the tour, you're off the tour. So I was just like, let's just fucking make something here. And I think we did make something there. I think I'm super proud of Ring of Honor at that time, because I feel like we made it a destination, just like you said. And it's still going today. I think at that time it was a destination for guys to go and not only work and get paid well, but also learn. And that's kind of, you know, like I was like, I want to work with Jimmy Rave. And Gabe was like, what? Why? And I was like, I was fucking something about him. And, I think he'll maybe learn something. Not that I'm, professor or anything like that, but it was very hard. It was very hard to leave, because like I said, it was just unknown. It just felt like time to go.
So you go to WWE, you go to developmental and OVW, and there's a story that gets passed around. I believe at this point you might have even been the ECW champion in that wonderful resurrection. Sorry, not you, just their perspective on it. But there's a story that floats around about a night with you and Tony Atlas backstage in OVW. I wondered if, I don't think you've ever told it from your perspective. I'd like to give you that forum.
It's a funny story. At the time, it really wasn't. I was the ECW champion. I was set free from my OVW obligations, meaning they told me, you don't have to live in Louisville anymore, you can go wherever you want. And I was just like, cool. I mean, I might as well just stay here and hang out, I would still go to the OVW shows every night just to watch. And that day, I believe Joey Mercury came up to me and he goes, hey, I'm gonna sign a TNA contract. And I was like, really? I was like, oh, good for you. So it turned into, this is the last time we're ever gonna get to wrestle each other. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right. So I went to Danny Davis and I said, hey, can I work a dark match? And Danny was like, do whatever you want, kid. And I was like, great, I'm gonna work a dark match. And it spirals out of control into this 4-on-4 tag. I can't remember exactly everybody who's in it, but it was literally like, oh, Seth, you're my buddy, you're in the tag match. Oh, Spears, fuck yeah, let's do it, so.
Just trying to have fun.
Yes, just trying to have fun. So like I said, I'm the ECW champion, whatever the fuck that means. And I'm alone in the locker room, and we talk. We're all going over this match. Like Mike Krul was in it.
He was so good.
I think Cody might have been in it. I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember. Look it up. And so I pull out my bag and I'm getting ready, and I tape up and Xing out my hands, and I'm like, God, this is just gonna be fun. It's gonna be friends, goofing off, but having a good time. And Tony Atlas walks in. He's like, hey! And I look up and I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. Atlas, hi, I'm Phil. Nice to meet you. What are you doing there? And I'm like, I'm just putting my gear on. I'm gonna work a dark match. And he's like, looks like you got 2 broken arms. And I just go, yeah. Because I got no idea where he's going with this. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. And it's that awkward. And he just says it again. He's just like, I mean, all that tape, it looks like you got 2 broken arms. And I just go, well, it's just the thing I do. I tape up so I can draw the X's on my hands because I'm straight edge, and I can see like this is just. It's not registering. I'm not getting through to him. And after I get done explaining it, and he's just like, well, you know what I think? I think if you don't listen to your coach, you're never going to get called up to the big show. And now I'm just like, what? I look down at my bag and like the ECW title's there, and I'm just like, and I just went, okay, all right, sir, thank you. All right. And he leaves, and I just go, man, that was fucking weird. But you always hear, this is the guy I seen on the MTV show hiding money from himself and having women step on his face with high heels on. So I'm just kind of like, I guess that's just how he operates. So we have the match. It's a tremendous piece of business. It's great. It gets over current OVW angles. Old favorite Joey Mercury comes back. CM Punk's back. Everybody, we do good business. Baby faces go up. Everybody leaves. Everybody's happy. Remember, I'm like Dante from Clerks. I'm not supposed to be here. We're having the post-show meeting that they always do late Wednesday nights, and I'm sitting up in the bleachers with all the other guys, and I got the Major Brothers next to me, and I got Joey Mercury next to me, and I'm honestly kind of half paying attention because they're talking about the television show and what they can do better and like how they think it went, and they're getting critiqued and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like kind of zoning out, and then all of a sudden Tony Atlas is like, well, I think most everybody here was nice. And I'm just kind of like sitting there just like, that's cool, and he's like, but one person in particular was an asshole. And I'm just like sitting there going, fuck, man, that's brutal. I'm just calling people out, and I'm just sitting there, and he's like, some people listen to what the coaches have to say, and remember, and he starts talking about how he could bench press more than Hulk Hogan, and how he beat Hulk Hogan for real one time, and he's like, a lot of you are really good, and he would like go off on these weird tangents. He'd be like, you remind me of Tito, but some of you are an asshole. And then that's when, like Joey Mercury elbows me, and I'm like, And then I look, and then I realize he's just staring right at me, and I'm just like, this is fucking weird. And he does it again, oh, everybody was great to work with, and I'm gonna have a good report for everybody except for some asshole. And then I just start looking around, and I realize my phone's buzzing. I realize the Major Brothers are like texting on their phones. So like, oh, and finally I just stand up and I go, are you talking to me? And he like wakes up. He's like, yes, you're an asshole. And I was just like, well, fuck you. And I may have said, I didn't say, do you know who I am? I said, you don't even know who the fuck I am. I said, you don't know his name. He called Spears Mr. Piers. Like, I was just like, listen, man, like you come down here and I know why you were brought here. You were brought here to tell people not to fucking do drugs and to save your money because that's something you didn't do. I go, and you're going to criticize me.
Oh, burn.
It's in the past. I've buried the hatchet with Tony Adams. I don't want this to fucking be dug up or anything like that. This was literally like over 10 years ago. We fucking talked and we hugged it out. But at the time, I was like, bro, like, I was like, I'm the guy who just made it out of here, surrounded by guys who are trying to make it out of here, and you're attacking me, and I don't know why. And he started talking. He was like, I told you to take the wrist tape off, and you didn't. And I was just like, dude. And he was just like, well, go to hell. You'll never make it to TV. And I was just like, I'm on TV. I was like, I don't have to be here. Like, why am I being punished for coming back and trying to help? That was the last time I showed up at OVW. It turned into a big thing. It turned into a big thing. Those who politically didn't like me loved it because they went straight to Vince and they're like, literally, we're gonna get you fired.
I was just gonna say, what was the aspect of the story I've never heard is what was the fallout from WWE management itself after all that?
Well, to go back to a lot of archaic, dumb, toxic bullshit pro wrestling things, that's what it was. Everyone was like, oh man, you're gonna get fired. You better go talk to Taker. And I was just like, the fuck for? Like, what? Why? You know, like, this guy fucking attacked me. Like, I'm not gonna eat shit just because he's fucking Tony Atlas, you know? And the next day, somebody else who was very excited to tell the office was Nova. Oh, stooge.
I like Mike.
Fucking unbelievable. He's way too excited about it. They were like, him and Al, they were like trying to get the Major Brothers fired because I guess there was some story that I didn't know about the Major Brothers had wrist tape on, and you know, Al didn't like them, so Al was like, oh, it looks like you're doing a taped fist match. Like, just real stupid shit to get mad and yell at somebody for no reason, instead of maybe trying to explain, you know. And that's the thing about wrestling, is like those in management aren't really good at managing. Like, they should facilitate, they should help, and they should be like, hey, you got any questions? What are you doing today? You know what, I see you got the wrist tape on, and you know, those kind of old school, maybe it looks like you're doing a taped fist match, but nobody's ever done one of those around here, and they haven't seen it in 30 years. Explain some shit to people, instead of being like, he's got a taped fist, we're gonna get them fired. There's way too much of that shit. And so, like, me explaining it to Johnny the next day, you know, Punk, what happened? I got Tony Atlas sitting on the tarmac. Tampa International says he's not getting off the plane until he gets paid. And I was like, what? What the fuck does that have to do with me? Well, he doesn't want to go to FCW and get yelled at by somebody. Apparently there was a problem. I'm like, yeah, there was a problem. And I told him what the problem was. And we ironed it all out. And, you know, I remember walking into a locker room. Somebody ran and told the Undertaker, because they were so excited because they thought the Undertaker would get mad about it and I would get fired. I'm not going to name who it was. And yeah, it's in the past.
Was it Nova?
No. Oh, I did name drop.
You already name dropped him.
No, it was somebody on the main roster who never liked me and has tried to get me fired on more than one occasion. So I remember I'd go to the Undertaker. I go, so you hear any good stories lately? And he just laughed and he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, great. We good? Yeah. All right.
So the narrative about you that always floats around is that you're this grumpy, unhappy person, especially in that time period. Was it unhappiness, or was it that feeling of I'm fighting for my spot? Because I don't think a lot of wrestlers come with that mindset today, especially in WWE. I kind of compare it to NBA players versus Harlem Globetrotter players. One, they're fighting to be the best, and the other, they're on the team and they know they're part of the troupe. And I feel like I never have conversations with WWE guys today where they're like, I was in Madison Square Garden and this was the gate, or the crowd was down. And your generation, I think you were one of the last guys to be obsessive compulsive about that, was what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? What are the houses? Where were they last time? And that narrative about you is like, oh, he was so hard to work with. He was such a pain in the ass. He was a miserable SOB.
But who says that?
It's just Twitter.
Twitter
stories.
Some kids on the internet that heard a
right.
hand, you know, like
so
a story, like, you know, third hand. Like,
So my question to you is, when you're in that moment and you're trying to better yourself and you're trying to raise yourself to the highest level you can in WWE, how do you deal with those frustrations with all the archaic stuff that you just talked about, and how do you not let it get to you and prevent you from putting together the best performance that you can and putting on the best promo that you can and getting yourself into the position where they'll finally trust you, which took them some time?
I don't think they ever trusted me. And I think the reason I loved wrestling so much is because when I was in the ring, bell to bell, I didn't have a boss. And I always said and did things in the context, especially of house shows, where I didn't have to run anything by anybody. I would literally just do stupid shit off the cuff. I remember when, road to WrestleMania, I'm wrestling The Undertaker. And the first week after I won, maybe this is the genesis
like a
of
four-way for that match?
Yeah, so like I remember saying this is a really stupid way to wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
I forget who was writing at the time, but he got fired like right after that. Like whoever the creative person that was behind that, he was let go by the company like the next.
I just thought it was a really weird, like, oh, we're having this fatal four-way to see who wrestles The Undertaker. It just felt like a disconnect. I was like, it's kind of weird, but whatever, I'm winning, okay. Like everybody in the match agreed. It was like Randy and Big Show. I was like, yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know. And then I remember being in Indianapolis the next week, and I was wrestling Kane, and Michael Hayes comes up to me and is like, all right, Kane, Spike, 1, 2, 3. And I just went, huh? I was like, what? Okay, that's what we're doing? I'm wrestling The Undertaker in 4 weeks, and what are you guys gonna beat me every week? Like, what? And he's like, talk to Vince. All right, so I go talk to Vince. And Vince looks me in the eye and he goes, I've been doing this a lot longer than you, pal. Trust me, you're gonna be more over as a heel after you lose. And I was just like, okay.
How do you argue that?
At that point, I was just like, yeah, all right. It's not my fucking, it's not my company, but it's still me. And like I said, it was an uphill battle to try to make this match with The Undertaker feel like it wasn't so lopsided. I wanted to give reasonable doubt that, oh shit, this guy could beat the streak. Luckily enough, I did that wacky shit where I dumped fucking cat litter all over myself that was supposed to be Paul Bearer's ashes, and I think that kind of ramped it up. But yes, it was cat litter. Yeah, and it wasn't used.
I like that one guy who's disappointed it was not actually his ashes.
Yeah. I'm disappointed it wasn't really his ashes. So, juggling things that way, like, always sucked. Because at the end of the day, I was like, well, you're the boss, it's not my company. But, like, not to get political, I wasn't like, well, how about if I should beat Kane? Like, it wasn't that. It was just like, how about I don't lose clean while I'm trying to, do this thing? It was just a difference of philosophy, I guess, and he was like, oh, you're going to be much more over as a heel. And I just remember just being like, okay, all right.
Was there ever a moment where you think Vince got you? Like, not even after the pipe bomb and Money in the Bank with Cena in Chicago. Was there ever a moment where you felt like, all right, I got him on my side now?
No, I don't think so. Because it was always a fight. There was always a conversation. And I think that's that's the juice for Vince. You know what I mean? He wants to have those conversations in the personal relationship. And I don't think he ever understood me. You know what I mean? Like, he never got me. Triple H never got me either. It was just, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I did what I could.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Triple H, since that's the obvious next question. When you lost to him coming out of when you got super hot, was there ever that conversation where you're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this? Or was it, this is City Hall, done?
So, that objectively was still garbage. I remember he came and told me the finish, and he went, oh, I tried to talk to Vince, if you want to go talk to him and change his mind. And I went, you tried to change his mind? You said I should win? And he was like, and I went, oh, okay, I'll go try to change his mind too, thinking, yeah, you tried to change his mind, and if you tried and you didn't do it, and it was the same thing. And I just they good cop, bad cop, Oh no, I tried to get the finish changed because I think you should win. And I was just like, my promo, and I was just like, "Whoo, buddy!" I was like, "All right," you know. And then we start like talking, and I feel like maybe it was like a very Hollywood kind of setting where like maybe they're doing a table read or something like that, and like again, this is how this dude operates, you know what I mean? But I was just like, well, this is me, and this is how I operate. And they had like all this stuff, and it was just kind of a crash course of me and Rock getting in front of each other for the first time. And it wasn't negative, so to speak, but it was very much like, no, this isn't how I do things. And then him being like, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is how I do things. Okay, well, let's figure it out. You know what I mean? Because if you say this, this, and this about me, then I'm going to say this, this, and this about you. And then he was just kind of like, well, all right. And I was like, no offense, I don't know who these guys are. I don't know why they're writing material for me when I think this is the way we should go. And so like we kind of pushed all that aside, and like me and him had, you know, kind of a one-on-one conversation in a crowded room, which is fucking uncomfortable, but he's who he is, and but again, I think he respected the fact that I wasn't backing down. I wasn't refusing to do anything, but I was just like, hey, can we maybe do this like a different way? And he was great, and he was fun to work with, and I like working with him. I just threw that out there because I was like, oh, he's texting me. I was like, hey, if I rubbed you the wrong way, I know we kind of had that little thing that first night, and he was just like, no, fuck it, water under the bridge. That's all. That's all it was.
All right.
It's a lot, I know, I'm sorry.
So he makes a lot of movies. Batista's making movies. Cena's making movies. You're starting to make movies. I feel like there should be like an Expendables type of film with all these wrestlers.
Oh, hell yeah.
You mean there should be a movie that I pitched to the WWE almost 10 years ago, like the remake of Cannonball Run? Yes.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
They don't fucking listen to me. They never listen to me. They're gonna do it now. They're gonna do it eventually. They do a lot of things that I pitched to them that they said no, they can't do that, but they do now. But I don't care. Apparently they give people time off now. Did you know? Fucking crazy. It's seriously crazy. It's seriously crazy, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad, but man, hindsight's 20/20. If you just would have given me some time off.
They get time off, but as this gentleman yelled out, still no ice cream bars.
They'll do it. They'll do it eventually. They will. They'll do it eventually.
How close were we to the return of the ice cream bars when you were making all that noise?
I don't know.
They never said anything to you about it?
I was reaching out to like Good Humor to like try to facilitate stuff. Like they don't. Yeah. I don't know.
Good
I feel
Humor.
like they could do it, right?
Good humor.
Hell yeah.
Doesn't Kofi have cereal?
Yeah, New Day has cereal.
There you go.
And pancakes now.
Pancakes.
Oh yeah. They come out with, I'm not making this up. I cannot believe I'm explaining this to CM Punk. The New Day comes out with a big platter of pancakes and tosses them out to the fans. Like Frisbees, like Lanny Poffo.
But did they like sell them?
No, they don't sell them, they just toss them out.
Oh, okay. I said, okay. Wait,
But they do sell breakfast cereal.
Did they sell the cereal?
They do sell the cereal.
See, that's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
You would eat it.
Apparently not so bad. Thank you, noted food critic. You know what? You traveled a lot with Kofi. He's the WWE champion now.
Yes.
Thoughts on that?
So, along with doing play-by-play for CFFC, some of my broadcasting duties nowadays, I work for Stadium Network. I'll do a lot of fill-in stuff, working on developing my own show. And they brought that up. I fill in on a show called Sauce and Shram when one of them is on vacation. Sorry. And that, I think that must have happened like that weekend, and I was like there on a Monday filling in for one of them, and they brought that up, and they asked me about it, and I said, man, it's so fucking awesome looking at where Kofi is, because I know he's got 2 kids, and that's probably just so rad that it happened now. But my first comment was, should have happened 10 years ago. But it might be better for him that it happened now because his kids get to see it and his kids get to enjoy it, and I think that's probably the best thing in the world for him.
And he's wrestling Randy Orton again. So we're right back where we started.
Bless your heart, Kofi.
Jumping back over to the movie thing, you said earlier, comic book nerd. We live in this golden age now where every character gets a series or gets an animated feature or gets a feature film. Like, I remember going to see like Nicolas Cage in Ghost Rider and just being happy there was a Ghost Rider movie. Now it's like Avengers Endgame and all this crazy stuff. There's got to be a Marvel movie or a DC movie for you somewhere. Like, I've always thought like you carry a lot of Han Solo and Indiana Jones, and I think that Harrison's Ford. Yeah, there you go. But like, is there a dream Marvel or DC role for you? Like, I know we're early on in the Hollywood endeavors here, but there's got to be something for you.
I think what?
Casey Jones!
Casey Jones.
That'd be fucking badass.
Punisher. Anybody else?
Is there any casting agents in the audience? Anybody? I'm a little old for Spider-Man. But the Spider-Verse, I could be old Peter Parker. Logically, I'm a pretty pragmatic thinker, so I try to think of like, man, what would be kind of cool? And I thought being like a 2019 version of Kraven in a Spider-Man movie might be kind of neat. You could be like weird, like militia dude, like wearing the tactical gear, and it's kind of topical because everybody apparently has an AR-15 now. And it could be. Tell me I'm wrong.
Sadly, you're not.
Tell me I'm wrong. I think that could be cool. Casey Jones, I feel like is a pretty rad fit. But I think those are great characters. I think that would be fun to do.
Can I pitch a crazy idea?
I mean, you pitch it to fucking George Lucas, please.
All right. So they're talking about developing this as a series, Moon Knight. I think of you.
I would love to be Mark Spector. And it's that obviously there's a lot of characters in the Marvel universe, so like I'm not greedy just to be in there. Like I would want to do something that was fun and made sense. Like I think Dave doing Drax that's like one of those. It's like when you're done with the puzzle and like there's that one puzzle piece missing and you're like, oh no, did Larry eat it? And then you find it and you're just like, there it is, and you finish the puzzle. I feel like Dave is like a perfect fit for that. I don't know if that exists in the Marvel universe for me, but obviously, my DMs are open. That's what the kids say nowadays. I think in Hollywood, along like a lot of other things, I think it's not so much what you know, it's who you know. I think after people see, I'm talking like casting directors and directors, writers, and stuff like that. Once they see the performances, I think more jobs will come my way. And you never know. I mean, everybody's got a streaming service. There's content that they need, so we'll see. I'm stoked I did 2 horror movies. I mean, as a kid who used to walk into like the local video store was MTM Video, and I used to immediately like just walk to the horror section and just be like, what the fuck is this? I'm renting this. And it's just wild to me that I was fortunate enough to be able to make these genre movies. It's great.
And that time period was great because you could walk into the video store and see all the artwork, and it's like, what is this?
That's what it was.
And it was never as good as the artwork, but it was still fun to watch.
Motel Hell, look at this, it's cool as hell. Yeah.
So you do have a friend who's going to be in the DC universe cinematically. John Cena is going to be in Suicide Squad, but I'm talking about.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's going to be in Suicide Squad.
I didn't know that.
In the second one, yeah. But Dwayne Johnson is going to. They haven't announced yet, but he's in it.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, so maybe you can text him and find out right now. Your buddy, no, he's not going to text John Cena. It was a joke. But The Rock is going to be playing Black Adam at some point.
Ooh, should I call him?
I just read online The Rock's walking his dog. Is there anything on the DC side that you go, because I mean they're kind of trying to find their way with their movies. Is there anything that you're like, maybe that'd be fun? Because look at the reimagining of Aquaman, nothing like the Arthur Curry character that all of us grew up with, and people loved it. So anything out there you think
you're
about?
the DC guy. It doesn't have to be this way. When I was a kid, it was very much like, us against them. So I was like a Marvel guy, so I was like, DC, blah. It doesn't have to be like that. I'm here to tell you, like, we need to realize that, like, it's all there for us and we should enjoy all of it. Like, right now, like, I see a lot of AEW hats, but realize that you can watch all of the shit that's out there. Don't let either company trick you into thinking it's a us versus them thing. Just enjoy the wrestling. whether it's WWE or AEW or NXT, you guys don't have to choose. You can fucking watch it all. That's rad.
So what DC character?
I don't know. I'm not big enough. Can I pull off a Lobo? I don't know.
Lobo would be fun.
I'm just trying to think of the ones I like, you know? I mean,
Ambush Bug?
Nobody's gonna make me
Ambush
Batman.
Bug.
I think Lobo might work because he could hide my ugly face in makeup. You know?
There you go. What? Somebody yelled something. What?
That's the dream right there. Hasbro makes an actual good G.I. Joe movie.
There you go.
Like I get to just be Flint or something.
Oh.
All right.
You know?
They're developing a He-Man movie. You know
Are
that?
they?
Yeah.
What the fuck am I gonna do with that?
Orgo.
But that's not gonna be CGI.
No. Storm Shadow. There you go.
I do have the tattoo. I do. You know what? No. Realistically, I'm a Dreadnought.
Ah, Dreadnought. There you go.
Yeah, I could be him.
You know what? You might have been born to play Zartan. That is dead on. Now that I think about it, put the hood on you.
Grape soda, chocolate donuts.
Grape soda. Yeah. So, we talk a lot about a bunch of different things. Today, 2019, how do you define your happiness? Like, everyone, I think there's, like I talked about earlier, there's this assumption that at some point everyone's just dying to jump back into pro wrestling, but you've had all these other endeavors and you're happily married. How do you define happiness for yourself after coming through all these trials and tribulations? And what's your advice to everyone who's kind of going through that walking through the fires and life's got them down or they're beyond frustrated and they don't know their way out? Like,
Wow.
What life advice can you give them? And how did you get through all this?
Well, life right now is a little complicated, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? Politically, I think I've never seen anything like it. I think it's interesting when our two-party political system is almost racially divided to where I'm at the point, and everyone's gonna love this, you know, call me a liberal or whatever. I'm just a human being who thinks if you think somebody is not as good as you because of where they come from or the color of their skin, I've had it with you. And I've always felt this way, but my wife is brown. And I never, ever looked at her like that. I've never been like, I married a brown lady. To me, I just married a human being, right? We're walking down the street the other day, this is in Milwaukee, and a car goes driving by, and this lady sticks her head out and yells, "Go home! Go where you came from!" And I immediately am going, oh shit, am I wearing Cubs gear? I took my hat off. I thought I was wearing Cubs gear, and this was a Brewers fan. And I realized, nope, no Cubs gear. And then I looked at my wife. She didn't think it was as funny as I thought it was.
Oh.
Because I thought it was fucking funny because I have never been, that's my fucking privilege, right? I've never been in a situation, well, except in Japan once, the little kids were running at me doing this. But again, I thought that shit was funny because nobody's ever used the color of my skin or like where I came from to try to make me feel bad. So it doesn't exist in my fucking head. I was like, that was some funny shit. And I saw like, my wife wasn't so fucking pleased. You know, she was fucking kind of bummed. And I think we live in a world now, like I explained to her, like again, I'm not a fucking tough guy, but I told my wife, I said, if we're ever in that situation in public, somebody says that shit to you, I'm gonna hand you my car keys and my wallet. I said, and we'll deal with this shit on the fucking 9 o'clock news. Oh, why did you do that? Because I think everybody needs to be held accountable. Everybody needs to be held accountable. And I think you talk about like my happiness, that is my happiness. My happiness is my wife and my dog. Not necessarily in that order sometimes. But I wake up every day and I try not to start my day by grabbing my phone I try to just kind of sit there and just be like, I woke up today. That's pretty fucking cool. Like, I don't have a set schedule. I don't really have anybody to answer for except for my dog and my wife. And I just try to do shit every day that, like I said, not only makes me happy, but can make somebody else happy. I don't like when people publicly brag about charity and, oh, I did this and, oh, I did this. I don't need to do that because that's not why I do things like that. I do things because I want to try to help people. Like I said, I always feel like I'm trying to reach back and bring people with me. And that's like my friends, my family, it's my fans. Hey, if you guys don't like horror movies, you like me wrestling, watch this fucking horror movie. You know, come with me. Come on this journey with me. So my happiness is related to that. Like when my wife's bummed, I'm bummed. When shit sucks in the world, I'm very empathetic to that, and I'm fucking bummed. And it just sucks that we're in this spot in this country where you don't know what's real and what's true. But I think being nice to the person next to you on the subway is always going to be real, and that's always going to be true. And I think more people just need to do that. And I think it'll be a better, happier place. Like I said, to not make it, political, like the, AEW and NXT are going fucking head to head. That's a plus for everybody in here. That's awesome, because you guys get to watch it. If you guys watch one, you're not going to watch the other, right? You're going to watch everything. So let them pretend like there's some sort of war going on, and you guys just get to reap the benefits. I think that's great. Don't fight other people because somebody with more money than you tells you that you have to. It doesn't have to be like that.
So as we start to wrap this up, is there anything that throughout everything you've been through and all the things that are said about you and all the experiences you've had, that this audience out here, this audience watching on Fight, this audience watching on pay-per-view, don't understand about the life that you've lived or that the choices that you've made? Is there any misconceptions still out there that maybe you'd want to clear up?
I don't know. I think that's not for me to decide. That's for everybody to decide. Everybody in here, everybody walking down the street, everybody I've ever met, they have their own version of Phil in their head. It's not for me to live up to whoever that is supposed to be. I try to be nice and kind to everybody. I can't prevent people from having a negative view of me based on something they read on the internet, and it's not worth my time to try to explain stuff to me. I don't think anybody should, like I said, as long as you're doing something that you enjoy that doesn't hurt somebody else, more power to you. Don't worry about trying to explain yourself to friends, family, especially not people on the internet. And if I can make a suggestion.
Just one?
Twitter has become an infinitely better place since I found out that you can,
Block?
No. What's it called?
You?
No. There's a special notification thing where I went through and I was like, oh, I can do, people with no verified email.
Oh, if they don't follow you, you don't see them and things
like
that.
I put all these notifications on and it's such a better place. And so people are screaming into the void. Now I don't even block people anymore because I don't see it. People who don't want to, if they don't have a picture, that was one of the notification things, and I was like, oh my God.
You took away the eggs.
Yeah, I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? But it's been a much more enjoyable experience. I suggest you all do that. Because Twitter is not real life. It's not. I mean, unless there's an egg in here that wants to say some real vile shit to my face. How much time do we have?
I think we're actually over time, believe it or not.
Are we?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I need a vacation.
So unless any eggs would like to step up and get their own pipe bomb, I want to thank you for sitting down with us. This has been a great privilege.
Thank you. Me and Mike actually go back a lot. I asked Mike to do this. Mike used to host these bus rides.
Yeah, the bus trips.
Yeah,
Ring of
from
Honor.
New York to Philly in Ring of Honor. And I would come on the bus and do like quick Q&As with everybody who's brave enough to ride a bus from New York to Philly to watch some pro wrestling, because I just thought that was so cool. But I do remember one time when I was in IWA, I emailed you and I was like, we should do bus rides to Ted Petty Invitational, and you never
I was
replied.
like, yeah, that's not
You
happening.
never replied to me. You
I
never.
don't remember it. I don't remember the email.
Yeah, hey, thanks everybody. I feel like I was gonna say, no, thank you. Hey, this is real life. Like, I was completely anxious coming out here and nervous because how do I fill 90 minutes? And I kept telling people that, and you know, a couple buddies of mine were like, dude, just go live in the moment like you always do and just be you. And that's what I try to do. So hopefully nobody's disappointed. There wasn't like a big announcement or anything like that. My purpose for doing this obviously is just kind of to come feel like I'm hanging out with a room full of friends and I get to meet you all, sign stuff for you, and you know, hopefully, man, I hate the word put smile on people's faces, but I hope they give you a couple memories you can bring home and, you know, well, true, and I appreciate you for saying that. Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark!
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everybody for watching on Fight.tv.